A woman's words often mask her true intentions long before commitment is on the table. Most men fixate on what is explicitly said, missing the nuanced behavioral and emotional cues that actually reveal her readiness to commit. Understanding a woman's true intentions before commitment is not about decoding verbal promises or romantic declarations. It is about discerning the deeper psychological and behavioral patterns that differentiate fleeting infatuation from genuine emotional investment. This distinction is critical, as the foundation of any lasting relationship rests not merely on words but on consistent, authentic signals that create trust and shared purpose. The early stages of a relationship are notoriously deceptive terrain. Superficial charm, physical attraction, and even strategic kindness can easily be mistaken for sincere commitment. Yet, these are often just the veneer of infatuation or social politeness. The committed woman, by contrast, exhibits patterns of behavior and emotional openness that cannot be consciously controlled or fabricated over time. These behavioral indicators form a constellation of signals that, when observed collectively, provide a reliable blueprint of her true intentions before commitment. Recognizing these signals requires a shift in perception from focusing solely on what is said to observing what is done, how emotions are expressed, and how consistent these expressions remain under varying circumstances. For example, a woman who is genuinely considering commitment will demonstrate a willingness to integrate her life with yours, not just in words but through tangible actions, introducing you to significant people, sharing her routines, and making space for you in her future plans. This level of integration is not casual, it is a deliberate process reflecting deeper psychological readiness. Moreover, genuine emotional investment manifests in vulnerability and openness, traits that are often suppressed in early interactions dominated by caution and self-protection. The committed woman gradually lowers her defenses, allowing you to witness her authentic self, including her fears, hopes, and imperfections. This vulnerability is a powerful indicator because it cannot be feigned consistently without genuine emotional engagement. It signals trust and a desire to bridge emotional distances, which are foundational for any committed relationship. The psychological basis of these commitment signals lies in the alignment of values and life goals. When a woman envisions a future with a partner, her behavior aligns with this vision, consciously or unconsciously. You will notice her referencing shared values in conversations, showing interest in your aspirations, and adapting her priorities to accommodate the relationship's growth. This alignment is not instantaneous. It develops as she assesses compatibility and evaluates whether the relationship can fulfill her deeper needs beyond immediate gratification. Eye behavior serves as a subtle but powerful indicator of true intentions before commitment. The committed woman's gaze often conveys more than her words. Prolonged eye contact during meaningful conversations, especially when discussing future plans or emotional topics, suggests engagement and sincerity. Conversely, frequent avoidance of eye contact or distracted glances may indicate hesitation or guardedness. These microexpressions cannot be consciously controlled and thus provide a window into her genuine emotional state. Postural changes and body orientation further reinforce these signals. A woman who is emotionally invested tends to orient her body towards you, mirroring your movements and maintaining open postures that signal receptivity. Closed body language, such as crossed arms or turning away, often accompanies emotional distance or reluctance. Notably, these postural cues are consistent across different contexts, from casual settings to serious discussions, creating a pattern that reflects her underlying intentions. Patterns of communication and consistency in messaging are equally revealing. The committed woman maintains a steady flow of communication that balances availability with respect for personal space. She initiates conversations about shared experiences and future possibilities without resorting to manipulation or excessive reassurance seeking. Inconsistencies, such as fluctuating attention or vague responses to serious topics, serve as red flags indicating ambivalence or guarded intentions. Vocal tone and inflections during serious conversations provide additional layers of insight. A calm, steady tone when addressing relationship matters conveys confidence and emotional stability. In contrast, fluctuations in pitch or hesitations may betray uncertainty or discomfort with the subject. These vocal nuances, often subtle, cannot be easily masked and thus serve as reliable behavioral indicators of her true feelings. Subtle gestures revealing hesitations, such as fleeting touches followed by withdrawal or brief smiles that do not reach the eyes, offer microsignals of internal conflict. These gestures often occur unconsciously and reflect the woman's ambivalence about commitment. Recognizing these signs requires acute emotional intelligence and attention to nonverbal nuances that many men overlook. Emotional responses and vulnerability signs are perhaps the most critical indicators. The committed woman responds to relational challenges with openness rather than defensiveness. She expresses emotions authentically and is willing to engage in difficult conversations that demand emotional labor. This willingness to confront discomfort for the sake of relational growth is a hallmark of genuine emotional investment. Behavioral synchronization and alignment of values manifest in shared routines and mutual adaptations. You may notice her adjusting her schedule to accommodate your needs or adopting your interests as a way to build connection. These behaviors are not superficial mimicry but reflect a deeper psychological process of aligning life trajectories. The committed woman consciously or unconsciously integrates your world with hers, signaling readiness for a sustained partnership. Territorial and exclusivity behaviors also emerge as commitment signals. She may exhibit subtle possessiveness, such as introducing you exclusively to her social circles or expressing discomfort with ambiguous interactions with other potential partners. This behavior is not about control but about establishing boundaries that protect the integrity of the developing relationship. Changes in social and grooming habits often accompany a woman's genuine shift towards commitment. She invests in presenting her best self not just for casual encounters but with the intention of sustaining attraction and respect over time. These changes are gradual and consistent, reflecting a long-term orientation rather than transient effort. Proximity and personal space adjustments provide further evidence. The committed woman seeks closeness, both physical and emotional, while respecting boundaries that foster comfort and safety. She negotiates these distances dynamically, indicating trust and a desire for intimacy that transcends superficial interactions. Nonverbal cues related to trust and openness, such as relaxed facial expressions, genuine smiles, and touch, cannot be overstated as behavioral indicators. These cues create an atmosphere of safety and mutual acceptance, essential for genuine commitment to take root. Submission and control dynamics also reveal important psychological undercurrents. The committed woman balances autonomy with interdependence, demonstrating neither excessive dominance nor submissiveness but a healthy negotiation of power within the relationship. This balance indicates emotional maturity and preparedness for partnership. Finally, patterns and timing of commitment signals must be considered holistically. Genuine intentions unfold over time through consistent, congruent behaviors rather than isolated gestures or declarations. Recognizing this temporal dimension empowers you to distinguish between momentary infatuation and enduring emotional investment. In sum, discerning a woman's true intentions before commitment demands a comprehensive understanding of psychological and behavioral indicators. It requires moving beyond surface-level interactions to perceive the authentic emotional and relational dynamics at play. By honing your awareness of these subtle yet powerful signals, you position yourself to build relationships grounded in trust, mutual respect, and shared vision, qualities that define the committed woman and the true promise of lasting partnership. True intentions before commitment manifest most clearly through consistent behavioral patterns that reflect sincerity and deliberate choice. The committed woman does not merely express her feelings in fleeting moments, she embodies them through actions that create a reliable framework of trust and predictability. Reliability, in this context, is not about superficial promises but about a sustained commitment to presence and follow-through. When she says she will be there, she is. When she makes plans, she honors them. This consistency is a cornerstone behavioral indicator that separates genuine emotional investment from transient enthusiasm. Open communication further distinguishes the committed woman. She engages in honest dialogue that transcends surface-level exchanges, addressing both hopes and fears without resorting to evasion or defensiveness. This willingness to engage vulnerably is a direct reflection of her psychological readiness to build intimacy. It cannot be faked over time because authentic communication demands emotional labor and risk-taking. Genuine openness in conversation, especially about relationship expectations and personal boundaries, creates a foundation where mutual understanding can flourish. A willingness to integrate lives is another critical behavioral indicator. This integration is more than occasional shared experiences, it involves a gradual melding of routines, social circles, and future aspirations. The committed woman actively seeks to weave your life into hers, not as a convenience but as a sign of prioritizing the relationship's growth. This process includes introducing you to family and close friends, sharing personal milestones, and aligning daily habits to accommodate shared goals. Such integration reflects a psychological investment that goes beyond momentary attraction, signaling a readiness to build a shared future. Emotional indicators provide equally compelling evidence of genuine commitment intentions. Vulnerability remains central here, but it manifests specifically in the context of emotional availability and responsiveness. The committed woman does not shy away from expressing her needs or acknowledging imperfections within herself and the relationship. She demonstrates empathy and a capacity to regulate emotions during conflicts, choosing constructive engagement over withdrawal or escalation. This emotional maturity is a hallmark of deeper investment and reflects an understanding that relationships require continuous effort and adaptation. Future-oriented conversations serve as a psychological marker of commitment readiness. When a woman consistently includes you in her vision of the future, referencing shared goals, potential challenges, and mutual aspirations, it reveals her cognitive and emotional alignment with a long-term partnership. These discussions often touch on topics such as career plans, family expectations, and lifestyle choices, indicating that the relationship occupies a significant place in her decision-making process. This future orientation cannot be simulated convincingly over time. It is a natural outgrowth of genuine emotional investment. Prioritizing the relationship over casual interactions is another critical behavioral indicator. The committed woman consciously allocates her time and emotional energy to nurture the bond, often at the expense of less meaningful social engagements. This prioritization is evident in her choices, canceling non-essential plans to be with you, seeking opportunities for meaningful connection, and demonstrating availability during critical moments. It reflects a psychological shift where the relationship is no longer peripheral but central to her life structure. Understanding the psychological motivations behind these behaviors requires recognizing the importance of value alignment and life goal congruence. The committed woman evaluates the relationship not solely on emotional chemistry but on whether it supports her core values and long-term objectives. This evaluation is a dynamic process involving both conscious reflection and unconscious emotional processing. When alignment is perceived, her behavior naturally integrates with hers, creating harmonious patterns of interaction and mutual support. This alignment manifests in shared rituals, similar priorities, and compatible visions for the future. It is not about identical preferences but about complementary goals that foster relational stability. For example, if one partner values family deeply, the committed woman's behavior will reflect an openness to integrating family life into the relationship. If career ambition is a priority, she will respect and support this, negotiating shared sacrifices where necessary. These behavioral indicators are subtle but profound, revealing the psychological substratum of true commitment. Reliability and emotional availability create a feedback loop reinforcing trust and security. The committed woman's consistent actions reduce uncertainty and anxiety, fostering a safe emotional environment. This safety encourages further vulnerability and deepening connection. Conversely, inconsistency or emotional unavailability triggers doubt and distance, undermining the foundation of commitment. Open communication and vulnerability also facilitate conflict resolution, which is a critical arena for testing genuine commitment. The committed woman approaches disagreements with a problem-solving mindset rather than defensiveness or avoidance. She seeks to understand your perspective, expresses her own transparently, and participates actively in finding solutions. This behavioral pattern signals not just emotional maturity but also a strategic investment in the relationship's long-term viability. The willingness to integrate lives extends beyond social introductions. It includes practical considerations such as financial transparency, shared responsibilities, and mutual support during challenges. The committed woman is proactive in addressing these aspects, recognizing that long-term partnership requires cooperation in multiple life domains. This integration often involves navigating complex negotiations and compromises, which she approaches with a collaborative spirit rather than resistance. Future-oriented conversations also function as tests of compatibility, allowing both partners to explore potential conflicts and align expectations. The committed woman uses these discussions not to pressure or control but to co-create a shared vision. Her engagement in this process reflects a mature understanding that commitment is a dynamic, evolving construct requiring ongoing negotiation. Prioritization of the relationship manifests not only in time allocation but in emotional investment. The committed woman is attuned to the emotional climate of the relationship, responding to your needs and signaling care consistently. This responsiveness is not performative but emerges from a genuine desire to sustain connection and mutual growth. Value alignment and life goal congruence act as psychological anchors, stabilizing the relationship against external pressures and internal fluctuations. The committed woman's behavior reflects this anchoring through consistent reinforcement of shared ideals and mutual encouragement toward personal and relational development. In sum, behavioral and emotional indicators of genuine commitment intentions are multifaceted and interdependent. Reliability, open communication, emotional vulnerability, life integration, future orientation, and prioritization collectively create a comprehensive portrait of the committed woman. These indicators cannot be superficially manufactured or sustained without deep psychological investment. Recognizing and understanding these patterns equips you with the strategic insight necessary to discern true intentions before commitment and to navigate relationships with greater confidence and clarity. To assess and confirm true intentions before committing requires more than passive observation. It demands strategic engagement and calibrated discernment. You must become adept at asking meaningful questions that penetrate beyond superficial exchanges to reveal authenticity and consistency over time. These questions are not interrogations but thoughtful probes designed to elicit responses that reflect genuine feelings, priorities, and readiness for partnership. For example, inquiries about how she envisions balancing individual goals with shared aspirations or how she handles conflicts in close relationships expose her relational mindset and emotional maturity. Observing responses over time is crucial because genuine commitment cannot be ascertained from isolated moments. A woman's answers to meaningful questions may initially be vague or tentative, but consistent alignment between her words and actions across different contexts signals authenticity. This consistency is a behavioral indicator that cannot be consciously controlled indefinitely. It reveals the true emotional architecture supporting her intentions. Therefore, your role is to maintain attentive awareness and track patterns rather than fixate on singular exchanges. Setting boundaries plays a fundamental role in this evaluative process. By clearly communicating your own expectations and limits, you create a relational framework where mutual respect and transparency are prerequisites. The committed woman responds to these boundaries with understanding and adjustment rather than resistance or manipulation. Conversely, hesitancy to respect boundaries or repeated boundary pushing are red flags indicating ambivalence or mixed intentions. Recognizing these patterns early protects your emotional investment and prevents entanglement in uncertain relational dynamics. Red flags extend beyond boundary issues to include inconsistent behavior, avoidance of serious conversations, and reluctance to integrate lives meaningfully. For example, a woman who frequently cancels plans without valid reasons or evades discussions about the future is signaling internal conflict or lack of readiness. These behaviors, while subtle, accumulate to form a clear pattern that cannot be ignored. Your capacity to identify and interpret these signals equips you to make informed decisions rather than being swayed by charm or temporary enthusiasm. Cultivating emotional intelligence is paramount in this context. Emotional intelligence encompasses self-awareness, empathy, and the ability to regulate your own emotions while accurately interpreting others. Enhanced emotional intelligence allows you to detect microexpressions, tonal shifts, and subtle behavioral cues that reveal underlying hesitations or genuine commitment. It also fosters patience, enabling you to refrain from premature conclusions and to appreciate the gradual unfolding of true intentions. This patience is not passive waiting but active engagement with emotional dynamics as they evolve. Patience intersects with strategic observation to produce a balanced approach to relationship evaluation. While eagerness for commitment is natural, rushing the process often leads to misinterpretation and disappointment. The committed woman signals her readiness through a timeline marked by increasing consistency and depth, not through accelerated declarations. Recognizing the appropriate pacing and respecting the natural progression of emotional investment enhances your ability to discern authenticity. In practical terms, this means observing how she navigates relational challenges and whether she seeks collaborative solutions or withdraws under stress. It involves assessing her willingness to share vulnerabilities and how she responds when you express your own. These interactions create a behavioral mosaic that reveals her commitment orientation. Importantly, you must also monitor your own responses. Your comfort level, trust, and emotional resonance provide internal feedback about compatibility and mutual readiness. Engaging in meaningful conversations about values, life goals, and expectations is a strategic tool for confirmation. These discussions serve as a litmus test for alignment and provide opportunities to observe her reactions to congruence or dissonance. The committed woman approaches these topics with openness and curiosity rather than defensiveness or avoidance. Her engagement reflects a willingness to co-create a shared future rather than impose unilateral expectations. Setting boundaries also involves managing your own emotional availability and investment. By maintaining clarity about your needs and limits, you signal seriousness and encourage reciprocal transparency. This dynamic fosters an environment where true intentions can surface without the distortions of impression management or fear-driven behaviors. It also empowers you to disengage gracefully if red flags accumulate, preserving your emotional well-being. Recognizing red flags requires both intellectual awareness and emotional attunement. Signs such as inconsistent communication, evasiveness about future plans, reluctance to introduce you to important social circles, or habitual avoidance of conflict resolution indicate mixed intentions. These patterns reflect internal ambivalence or unresolved personal issues that interfere with genuine commitment. Your ability to identify these early reduces the risk of prolonged investment in uncertain relationships. Furthermore, cultivating emotional intelligence enhances your capacity to navigate these complexities with confidence and clarity. It enables you to interpret nuanced signals, manage your emotional responses effectively, and engage in constructive dialogue. Emotional intelligence also supports resilience, helping you maintain perspective when faced with setbacks or ambiguous behaviors. Patience and strategic observation together create a framework for informed decision-making. Rather than succumbing to pressure, internal or external, to commit prematurely, you learn to appreciate the natural unfolding of emotional investment. This approach aligns with the psychological reality that commitment is a dynamic process requiring time, trust, and mutual willingness to invest emotionally and practically. In conclusion, practical strategies to assess and confirm true intentions before committing revolve around meaningful inquiry, consistent observation, boundary setting, red flag recognition, emotional intelligence cultivation, and patience. These elements work synergistically to provide a comprehensive evaluative framework. By applying these strategies, you equip yourself with the tools necessary to discern genuine commitment signals amidst the noise of superficial charm and transient infatuation. This discernment empowers you to enter committed relationships with confidence, clarity, and a foundation grounded in authentic emotional investment. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.